Hey guys, it's Dani. Today, we're gonna start to make a full update on all of my slipper orchids, Phragmipediums, Multifloral Paphs, and the model leafed Paphs. There are a few things that I do want to mention. If you remember, a couple months ago, we had some issues with these orchids. I tried to fix them and I kind of managed to fix them. So I think it's useful to talk about what the problem was, or what I think it was, how I fixed it, and so on, as well as just make a full update on these guys. I don't usually talk too much about the paphs and slipper orchids in my collection, so I think they do deserve a long video. I tried to film this video before, but I didn't structure it properly. I think we're gonna make two videos, one today, second one tomorrow, because it's a lot to talk about. Alrighty, so first of all, let's start with my Phragmipediums. I have 3 of them. I purchased them last year, and ever since then I didn't purchase any other frag because I wasn't sure how I would do with them. I wasn't sure if the environment was proper, so I really didn't want to go ahead and purchase a whole lot of them. But it would appear that I'm actually not all that horrible with them. So we'll take them one by one because they're actually very, very different between them. So first, let's start with this guy. You might not remember him. This is the Phragmipedium Pope Oe. I had him in bloom last year, and it's just such a wonderful Phragmipedium. It has the longest sepals in my collection. It's an impressive, impressive orchid. And ever since then, it didn't rebloom, obviously, because it didn't have mature growths. This is the growth that was in bloom. You can see it here, still has the little flower spike. It's slowly but surely fading away. That's normal, it happens. Within a year or two, the older growth just die off, but they produce new growth. And this here is the new growth, which looks really, really good. Side note, this orchid naturally has leathery leaves. So this is not a sign of dehydration. It's normal for this particular species to look like this. So with the Phragmipediums, I kind of had some issues. I had the leaf tip die back quite a lot, and this guy had it as well, but the least out of all of them. I had a few leaves, I think 3 in total, which had the leaf tip die back. All of the others, this is old growth. It came with some sort of damage, so I'm not gonna count that. But on the new growth, which it has grown since last year, it had 3 leaves with die back, and that's it. At some point, it did just stop. I didn't do anything in particular with this guy. I treated him normally. Now, how is this guy different from the other 2? This Phragmipedium doesn't really require all that much moisture as the other 2. He doesn't really need to sit in moisture all the time and have it abundantly. He can actually dry out a little bit in between waterings, and that's how I treated him, pretty much like other orchids in my collection. I never let him go super dry for super long, like the Cattleyas sometimes. But he didn't really receive abundant watering. I didn't really keep him all the time constantly moist. I let him rather dry out in between waterings, and at some point the problem corrected itself. My suspicion, when I purchased this guy, maybe the root system was not adjusted to the medium, maybe it needed to grow a little bit more to absorb more water, and at some point it did grow. I know this guy had growing root tips because I repotted him from Ceramis to semi-hydra at some point. I know he was growing. I'm pretty sure he has a lot of roots because I cannot pick him up and pull him out of the medium. So as the roots grew and got established, probably he started to absorb the necessary quantity of water, and my issues kind of stopped. I actually never had super big issues with this guy, and as you can see, the new growth looks really luscious. I love this green color. It has the glossiness of the leaves. He actually does look very good. These growths, they have a little bit more to mature. I'm not sure if it's gonna bloom this year. I don't feel the base swelling up, so I'm not entirely sure when it will bloom. This guy arrived with 1 growth, which is still growing in the back. It's the biggest one, but the other 2 sprouted ever since last year and grew pretty fast. I'm pretty impressed, but it will take a little longer for this guy to mature, the fan, and bloom. That's okay though. He's doing absolutely fantastic. Next up, here we have the Inswarthy. Now, if your native language is English, you might call it Inswarthyi, and you will hear it being referred to as that. But pretty much the rest of the world reads it as Inswarthy. It doesn't matter. However you want to call it, it's okay. So this guy is a hybrid, and you'll have down below a link to the RHS so you can see the parentage. It doesn't have any Bessay in its parentage, but it is actually a pretty pink red Phragmipedium. And I think it's time to adjust the brightness. There we go. Now, this orchid, as well as the Bessay hybrid that I have, I received them with an infection of mealybugs, which I took care of. I did a mixture of water and alcohol, and some of the leaves which had damage got damaged a little bit more. Probably this orchid did not appreciate all that much the alcohol, but I got rid of the mealybugs last year. I didn't have any outbreaks. Everything is okay. The older leaves do have this damage, but that's okay. They're old growth. This orchid is doing fantastic right now. It has beautiful growing new growth. And even though I did have issues with this guy with leaf tip dieback, you can see it here, and it's hard to tell because it has so many leaves, but I did cut quite a few of the tips, I think at the beginning of this year or at the end of last year. I managed to actually solve the leaf tip dieback. This guy didn't get better in time. Unlike the Pope Oe, which stopped having issues last year in autumn, these guys kind of still had issues. So with the Inswarthy, I had to do something. So the only thing that I changed in their care is the watering actually. Let's say that now in summer I water my collection every 5 days. These guys get an in-between watering around the 2-day or 3-day mark. Just plain water, not a flush or anything, just another watering with plain water. I don't fuss around with fertilizer, but I do water them more frequent, and I do try to maintain the medium wetter. Even if the reservoir is not empty, I do still give them a watering. And that made all the difference. This guy is growing so nice right now. I have a multitude of new growth. You can see them in the back there, which have no more leaf tip diebacks. Everything looks green and nice and luscious. And actually, this is a very big orchid. He's actually a very big Phragmipedium. And apart from this damage that the older leaves have still, he's okay. He didn't get any other type of damage, leaf tip dieback or anything of the sorts. I'm not going to cut away these leaves. They're still functional. With time, they will inevitably be replaced with new fresh leaves that look so nice, so green. Oh, he's wonderful. He looks very, very good right now. So pretty much for this one, which is not a Pope Oe, he is supposed to stay wetter than the Pope Oe, I simply just introduced another watering in between my regular regime, let's call it like that. Plain water, osmosis water, not tap water. These guys don't get tap water. So osmosis water, no fertilizing, no nothing. I fertilize him regularly, but there is another watering in between the regular regime, and poof, presto, problem solved. Alrighty, this guy. Now with this one I had the most issues. This is a Bessay hybrid. This is Memoria Dick Clements. This guy had mealybugs as well. So I did the treatment, and you will see, this is a very old leaf, but you'll see the damage ever since back then. So this is old damage. It's probably some sort of alcohol damage coupled with what the mealybugs have grazed, and it got a little bit infected probably, but these are very, very old leaves and it's okay. In time they will be replaced as well. Now this guy had the most dieback, and you can see here quite a lot. I cut a lot of the leaves, even new growth leaves, and this happened at the beginning of the year kinda, or maybe early spring, so maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I think that's when I last cut leaves. So ever since then, as you can see, I don't have any more dieback. This guy has quite a lot of new growth. You can see right here again, he has quite a lot of new growth all over. And ever since then, I really didn't have any more issues with the dieback. And P.S. the dieback is a sort of dry type of dieback. On the other paths, you'll see it's not the same thing. But on the Phragmipediums, it was indeed just dry dieback of the tips. You can see it here. See, it's very dry, but still it looks very unsightly, and it can mean there is a problem in my care. So anyway, as I was saying, the dieback stopped. Look at that new growth, it looks so good. This orchid has a lot of new growth spread around, but it's very, very tiny. It grew a lot since last year, but it's still super tiny. So what I did with this guy to stop the problem, the same thing as with the Inswarthy, I introduced just another watering in my normal routine. This, I believe, is the most water-loving of all of them. The Bessay or Bessay hybrids are typically known for loving to stay in water. There is also a video from Ecuagenera with Bessay Phragmipediums in their natural habitat. They grow on a cliff, on rock, and there's water all the time pouring on a rock, pretty much like a waterfall. It's beautiful. But yeah, that's where they grow. They love water. They love to sit in water. And I suppose that I was not watering them enough. And it's funny because you know Phragmipediums, you know you're supposed to water them or keep them in a reservoir of water, but it's still surprising how much water actually they like and they need. I could water them every single day and they would be happy, except this guy. But these two, and especially the Bessay hybrid, they would be happy with watering every day. Now, due to economy reasons, I don't really want to water them every day, but that addition of another extra watering in my normal routine, that made all of the difference. And right now I don't have any more issues with the Phragmipediums. At this point, I am still waiting for the old damage to just go away, be replaced by new healthy tissue, and who knows, maybe some flowers. Other than that, these orchids seem to be doing okay even in my warm environment. I keep them under artificial light. I'm very pleased with the color the leaves have. You can see they're luscious and glossy and really nice. The Pope Oe receives a lot more light. He's in Cattleya light. He's a highlight type of plant. These guys, not so much, but they do receive quite a lot of artificial light. They're very close to the bulb actually because they're tall. And so far so good. I do believe I solved the issue with the Phragmipediums. It was just watering. And yes, I know they like to have a lot of water, but it's still amazing how much water they like. So if you have these issues with Phragmipediums and you tried everything and nothing works, do try to give them more water every day if you can, or even sit them in water, and maybe that will help. It certainly solved the issues that I have. So we can move on to the other group of slipper orchids, the Multiflora Paphiopedilums. And these are my Multifloral Paphiopedilums, the green-leafed ones. There's another green leaf, the American hybrid, but that's not a multifloral, so I'll include him separately. Other than that, here we have the Sappheiros, the Rothschildianum, the Philippinensis, which we had in bloom a couple of months ago. He was beautiful. If you missed that video, check it down below. I'll add it in the description. The flowers are just amazing. And here we have Judge Philip, which is a Philippinensis cross, and it's blooming now. It looks a little wonky because the flower spike got twisted somehow in between the leaves here. It got curled up a little bit as it was forming, and I didn't want to release it because the flower spike is actually pretty fragile. I didn't want to damage it or break it, so I just let it be. That's why it's a little wonky, but it's okay. It happens sometimes. So here are the green-leafed Multifloral Paphiopedilums. P.S. I'm going to add down below a link to the St. Augustine article on Paphiopedilums. A lot of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I shared with you an article which specified what species actually grow on limestone, which species do require a bit more calcium, a supplement, and at some point that website just got down and I didn't find a good website for that ever since. So for those of you who are long enough on my channel to remember, I have a replacement for that site. Check the description down below. It is a PDF and it's actually very, very useful. So the multiflorals, pretty much, they do require an addition of calcium if your fertilizer doesn't contain calcium. If you water with rainwater, osmosis water, and you don't have a source of calcium, they do actually need a supplement. I myself, I don't supplement anything because I have calcium from many directions. One, it is contained in the MSU fertilizer and also in the Orchid Focus fertilizer that I use. Second, I sometimes flush with tap water or combine it with my watering water, with my osmosis water, with a particular fertilizer which does not contain calcium, but it acidifies a lot the water. So I can pull off combining it with tap water. Therefore, my paths don't really require more calcium than this. They grow just as well and I don't see any deficiency signs so far. And that's important because tomorrow we're going to talk about the mottled leaved ones and about my solution and my fix for them. And I'll refer a little bit to the calcium supplement. So these guys do not receive any particular supplement, but I do make sure that in my feeding regime I do have calcium, magnesium, all of the fun stuff that usually we should have. Therefore, they don't have any deficiency of the sorts. And as I was saying in a previous video, I have the sensation that I do very, very well with these types of paths, the multiflorals. They can actually withstand a little bit of drying out, these guys. They are actually highlight lovers, and right now they are receiving kind of Cattleya light, and also they're receiving the same watering regime as my Cattleyas. Now, I don't keep my Cattleyas dry pretty much all the time, but I can get away with it. So due to economy reasons, I don't maintain their setup all the time wet. Pretty much these guys have the same treatment. Their system dries out a little bit in between waterings, and they really don't mind it. I have very strong roots. I have, oh, okay, let's not do that because I'm gonna rip the leaves, but they're very strongly rooted, let's say. They have actually very strong roots. I find these Paphiopedilums to be very suited for warm environments, highlight environments, and for those of you who don't really want to sit and water all the time and make sure that things are always moist and always wet. The reward is absolutely amazing. The flowers are absolutely amazing. Some of them are really, really unique. I cannot wait for the Rothschildianum to bloom. Look how big he's grown. If you remember last year, he was kind of like this one, like the Sapardi. Look at him now. He's growing fantastic. I'm not sure if he's gonna bloom this year, maybe, I don't know, hopefully, but if not this year, I really hope next year we're gonna see some blooms from this guy. I think he'll be the most beautiful out of the lot. And at this point, I'm looking into multiflorals because I really, really like them. They're big orchids, but I really do like them, and they pose no issue for me. I never had leaf tip dieback with these guys, or any type of dieback or infection or anything of the sorts. They've just grown without me actually having to alter anything way too much. I do feel like semi-hydroponics is fitted for them, but of course organic media works as well. And again, I feel like they don't really need to stay watered all of the time. So as far as for the Phragmipediums and the green-leafed multiflorals, everything is going okay, everything is right on track. And with these guys, I didn't do anything else, and they keep growing nicely. I wanted to point out that these guys need calcium because some of them, the Philippinensis at least, grows on limestone naturally sometimes. So they do require the addition of calcium if you cannot provide it. I wanted to mention it because I really want to make a point tomorrow about the other mottled-leafed Paphiopedilums. So as you can see, these guys don't appear to need any addition, not anything more than I already dose. So already this has been part 1 of my update. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future I'll have more of these, the multiflorals, maybe some Phragmipediums as well. I'll look into it. So stay tuned for the update with the mottled-leafed paths, because that's when we're gonna talk a little bit more. I did a few stuff, I tested some stuff, I drew some conclusions, but that will be tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, you know the drill. Give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos, updates, Q&As, all that fun stuff. And if you like YouTube to remind you whenever I upload a video, just turn on all notifications for my channel. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye!